everybody, Mike Naso from IPR with the latest on the tropics, and yesterday this is what we were dealing with in the Caribbean Sea, and I said watch to see if it either continues to move in this general direction or dissipates, and I said if it stays together it could be a problem up here in the Northwest Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. It could be. Well, here's what we are dealing with over 24 hours later. A system that is still there, that is larger, that is persisting with deep convection, and that is further north. Now, what was a little piece of circulation moved into the East Pac, but looks like maybe we're getting a little bit of a mid-level circulation up here, and that may be a little bit of a concern. Let's look at the visible satellite loop as the sun goes down. You can see what I'm talking about. There goes the one little swirl down here. Now watch right up here. There appears to be another tiny swirl up there, which would be the one to concern yourself with. And you can see the wind flow here is right over the top of the system, but it's starting to break through. And whenever you see that, if the system breaks through the wind flow, then we might have problems with the potential for some development, but we're going to have to wait and see if that happens. But definitely convection is persisting. It's not flaring up and down. It is persisting, which is a problem, as you know. Now, when we look at the latest shear analysis, you can see down here shear is very low, but the flow over the top of the system is why the shear values in here are so high. However, once it breaks through that, it's going to carry this little favorable environment it's got up to the northwest with it, and we may have to worry about that. You can see the upper level divergence over is very strong, strongest in any area of the Atlantic right now, and that's why we're seeing convection fire as well as it has been. Now, here's the wind flow for a system in the, say, 1,000, 1,009 millibar range, which this is, and that's generally off to the west, maybe a little bit to the north of there, so it should be heading towards the Yucatan over the next 2 or 3 days, but at the pace it's going, it might make it there in, say, 36 hours or so. Now, here's the wind flow if the system were to deepen into the 990s, and you'd see there the wind flow changes a little bit to get drawn a little bit further north. So we're going to have to wait and see about this. Now, the GFS model has been hinting on the track of this system. The GFS has it strengthening, first of all, and moving up in this general direction, but not being too strong of a system, but certainly an entity up here towards Texas, Louisiana, and then getting pulled up and out with the next trough. Now, the NAM, which had yesterday been taking it up in this direction, now brings it into the eastern Pacific as a much less organized low. Now, the NAM may be a little bit too far south because the system's already up near here, so I'd be leaning towards the GFS, which takes it into the Gulf. That doesn't mean it'll develop, but it certainly means things could get interesting. Now, elsewhere in the Atlantic, we are dealing with a little low pressure here off the northeast coast of Florida. You can see it pinwheeling there as the sun goes down, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty ragged here, and there is a shear coming in as this troughiness pulls out. Now, if it disconnects, then it'll sit around here for a while, but it probably won't become anything, and if it did, it might be a little bit like Andrea, something weak, something not that tropical, but it might be a named storm. I mean, that's the main factor here. Do things get a name? Trust me, the media jumps on it as soon as they do, which they have every right to. But you can see the shear coming in on this one as it continues to pinwheel right here off the coast. They could use the rain in areas here. Barry brought some, but again, it doesn't look like they're going to get too much out of this system as it continues. And it might move inland, it might move off the coast, sit around there for a few days before it finally moves on out. Elsewhere in the Atlantic, off the coast of Africa, a pretty good wave. The GFS earlier was making this a hurricane, or a tropical storm at least, into Texas in early July. You can see we're on June 21st. They had these waves moving across the Atlantic, taking a long track, and in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, actually being in the western Gulf. We'll see if that pans out. You always want to watch waves, even this time of year, because they can make it west. They might not develop right away, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. In fact, the system we're watching in the Caribbean stemmed from a tropical wave that had taken a track just like this over South America and then exited into the Caribbean Sea. We're dealing with it now. You can see another good cluster of storms. This is probably going to move off in about 2 or 3 days, and we could see that get interesting as well. Eastern Pacific is quiet. We do have some activity on the Intertropical Convergence Zone. Watch this one here. This looks like it might be getting something to it, but in general, if it does, it should move on off towards the west and not do anything. And in the Western Pacific, things are quiet, although a lot of scattered convection. Anything could come out of this. I highly doubt you'll have this much scattered convection and nothing happens, and the Westpac is such a big basin. The Madden-Julian Oscillation favorable phase is going to move into the Western Pacific, which should juice things up a little bit. We do have some activity in the Indian Ocean. This is Tropical Storm 3B, and at 5 p.m., I believe that's Indian Standard Time, Thursday, it was located at 16.1 north, 83.8 east, and maximum sustained winds were 40, gusting to 50. It was moving west-northwest swiftly at 18, and you can see the track here takes it inland and then dissipates it over India, well to the north of Sri Lanka. You can see the satellite there. Certainly some good organization on the southern side of it, but definitely lacking on the north side. It looks like it's about to move inland if it hasn't already. But certainly something interesting in the Indian Ocean. We'll keep you updated tonight on Mike Watkins' Talkin' Tropics show. Stay tuned to IPR365.com as well as podweather.com.